Live from Buffalo Bills training camp, it's Levack and Guys on 104.5 The Team.
We're live from the Back Nine Grill just down the road from St. John Fisher's, and now the man who covers the Bills for WGR 550 for, he's on MSG, ESPN3. You know, the guy's everywhere. You can't turn on TV in the Buffalo area without Sal Capaccio popping up for you. How embedded are you, Sal? Do you stay right here with the players?
I do. I have a dorm. I stay at Dorsey Hall, but that's any media that really covers them on a full-time basis gets a dorm. Like if you guys came up and said, I'm going to spend, a week at camp or whatever, they would probably give you one because, they didn't want to make the media available and, feel comfortable. So you could do that. But I am, as a sideline reporter, I travel with the team, on the team playing. I'm in the hotel. So embedded very much so during the season as well. But, I have a 3-year-old at home. It's only an hour and a half away. So I try to get home. I usually come up here and stay when the team has like 3 days in a row where they practice. Okay. And then if they're off for a day, I'll definitely go home. And I'll spend time with my wife and my kid. And I don't want to have my wife have to do everything, as far as watching them and getting them up. So I try to give her a little bit of a break if I can.
Sal, this one just got engaged. So
congratulations.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Nice.
Sal Capaccio with us right now. We're just down the road from St. John Fisher. You're nice enough to come down and hang out with us.
Here's a horrible segue when we use it. Speaking of new relationships, Anquan Bolden now signs with the Buffalo Bills. Take us through the process of how Bolden ended up in Buffalo.
Well, Anquan is a guy that's obviously had a lot of production for a long period of time. He's going to be 37 years old. He had over 500 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. Still productive in Detroit. One thing I want to point out to people all the time when I wanted to, while this process was going on, he signed July 30th with the Lions last year. He waited even then. He was well into when camp had started, or at least about a week into that. Last 2 years, I really wanted the Bills to sign Anquan. And part of the reason was Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator going into the season, obviously, both years. And he had familiarity with Anquan. And Anquan was very productive in San Francisco with Greg Roman and his offense. I thought it was a great fit. Well, last year when he was out there, I had texted somebody that I know, a personnel man in the league, and I said, hey, what's the deal with a guy like Anquan? Why is nobody signing him? He's been productive in this league. And it really made sense. The answer was, well, he's not a typical free agent. He's been in this league so long. He's such a pro. He's going to come in shape no matter when you get him. And he's going to learn the offense pretty quickly. So there's no real rush. And you want to give a guy like that time to think it through his own process, what he wants to do. Same thing happened this year. Anquan had some opportunities out there. He's a free agent. I'm sure he didn't want to go to training camp necessarily and go through all of that. But at the same time, it's a tough decision for him and his family. He's 37. He's got a 13-year-old son. He's got kids in school. He's at the point in his life, do I want to uproot my kids and my family for a year, or do I want to be away from them for a year? So I know that he would like to, and he wanted to see what was happening with the teams in Florida, Jacksonville, Miami, Tampa. He's from Pahokee, down there in Florida. He went to Florida State. That would have been the ideal situation. He had teams reach out to him. One of them was the Bills. He really had to think about what he wanted to do. The Bills did, I think, a real good thing here, which is they gave him time, they gave him space. They basically said, hey, man, when you're ready, that's okay. What I'm told is Kim Pegula had a real big part in this. Okay. The Bills owner met him at the NFL Man of the Year award where he won last year, 2016. She struck up a relationship with him. Apparently her kids actually went to the same high school or same school that his son is either going to or went to, so they have a connection there. And I think that that was a big part of it, that he wanted to kind of just take his time, and the Bills put no pressure on him. And then finally, he decided, you know what, I want to play football. He took it through to his wife. And as you know, guys, as you're going to find out, it's really up to what she says, and she was on board.
Sal Capaccio with us right now, sideline reporter for the Bills on WGR as well. The Pegulas, you brought up Kim was part of the recruiting process. This is my 4th year getting to visit you for a day when I come down here. I've never seen the owners before. They're both here. They're both extremely prevalent. Is that a new thing for the Pegulas?
No, they've been here every year on the sidelines. I would say maybe a little more visible this year. Okay. It seems like they're maybe a little more involved, and I don't know. I don't want to give the wrong impression like, oh, they're calling the shots or anything, but it seems like they really want to be a part of what's going on. And maybe that's because it is a new regime. First-time GM, first-time head coach, right? I mean, these are people that, hey, we just hired these people like, we think they're going to do a good job, but I want to kind of stay around and make sure they're doing everything right, and maybe that's part of it. But the other part of it is Terry said something interesting. We talked with him last week in a little media scrum, Do you know what he does after practice? He watches film. He actually goes and watches film, not because he's going to coach or critique. He said he wants to learn. Right. He likes learning about what's going on with the players, with the schemes, and he says he watches film with the coaches. And I think that's a big reason. He's a football guy. He wants to be a part of it. You will find him standing on the sidelines all the time. Now, the difference was, the reason why a lot of people may not have seen him in the last few years, they generally, last 2 years, kind of stayed in a golf cart. They would drive around the golf cart, kind of watch from there, drive around. Now they're up. They're walking around. They're going in different parts of the field, talking with people, and they're just really personable people. You know, you don't have to be Sal Capaccio to go talk to them. Now, of course, they know me, and they have security there and all that, and, you know, I'm not walking up like, oh, my God, who's this guy, right? But anybody really wants to say hello to them, they're generally very nice people about just saying hello and talking and being engaging, and I think that's really what I think endears them to a lot of Bills fans and a lot of people in Western New York, especially after they bought the team and kept them here.
Yesterday, Sammy Watkins goes down with an injury. He seemed okay today. What's the update on Watkins?
Well, he had a full participation today. He was fine. You know, when it happened yesterday, what happened was he was running a comeback route. He kind of overextended. His foot went out a little bit, and he rolled his ankle. Now, we didn't know it was the ankle. We thought it was the foot at first because, sure enough, it's Sammy. It's the foot.
Right.
When he walked off, because he was kind of limping, and you're like, oh, here we go, right? Trainer comes out, talks to him. Bud Carpenter, the head trainer, by the way, and then you're like, right, what's going on here? They walk over to the tent. We could see the tent area where he was getting treatment. They were wrapping the foot, and you're like, oh, boy, here we go. But they never took him to the locker room, which is a good sign. They only kept him in the trainer's tent near the field. He got his helmet on. He went back out. Interestingly, Steve Smith was at practice yesterday, the wide receiver, right?
Correct, right.
So I go back to the field, and I'm watching Sammy, and I say to Vic Carucci, the Buffalo News, I go, hey, have you seen Sammy take any team reps since he came back out? And he said, no. And I said, man, I don't know. I hope it's not the foot. And Steve Smith looked at me and goes, nope, it's the ankle. And I think he kind of knew from that. I don't know if Sammy said something to him or what. And I said, oh, really? And he goes, it's kind of funny because sometimes you get information from people and they don't want you to tell where you got it from. And he's like, yeah, and you can quote me like when you tweet that. I said, okay. I said, according to Steve Smith of NFL Network, it's the ankle, and it really was. So after practice, we talked with Sammy. He said he rolled his ankle, had nothing to do with the foot. He was fine. He got it wrapped. And what was funny is he said, I usually get a special wrap for my feet. I didn't today, and sure enough, I rolled my ankle because of it. So I'm going to make sure I get that from now on going forward. Today, full participation, no issues.
We're live in Rochester. Sal Capaccio, nice enough to join us. So, all right, tell me about this team, because the last 2 years, they were like, you could kind of get a vibe on what they were doing on the field. Like, you know, Rex was, you kind of see where his game plan was going, where it seems like Sean McDermott is very basics. Like, it's like, we're going to have a tackling drill, and then we're going to do this. We're going to, I don't know what this team is going to be except for very basically sound.
Well, I'm looking at you. You played football, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, I think so, right? I mean, you know the way a practice schedule breaks down. You can tell. It's always, I mean, coaches are, they're animals about everything down to a minute, right? I mean, everything is period versus another period, another period. Sean kind of takes that to the next extreme. I mean, every little detail of everything this team does is so thought out by Sean McDermott, to the point where every player basically has their own plan for practice and whatever. Like, they can go back, whether it's nutrition or working out or how many reps they need to get before they get to the first preseason game. Everybody has their own plan. It's pretty crazy. He's very, very, very detail-oriented. That was one of the things that drew the Pagulas to him, of how organized and detail-oriented he is. His own assistants talk about that. I've asked several assistants, what's different about Sean and the other staffs you've been on? And almost always they say he has a plan for everything. Everything's thought of, everything's down to a T about what he wants, and we just stick to the plan all the time. And I think that's pretty phenomenal. What I really like about this staff, though, is they're teachers before they're coaches. Coaching is teaching. It is, right? I mean, I coached. I know it's really about communication. It's about trying to help somebody get from point A to point B and how they can do that. You know, these guys are the best athletes in the world at what they do, at playing football. But somewhere along the way, they lose a lot of the technique because they're always the best players on the field. They don't have to worry about where their foot is stepping and all that, because you can just beat somebody athletically. I think Sean brings to them something that they don't get a lot of times, or didn't have maybe at the high level of college or into the NFL, which is somebody actually working on all those little techniques all the time with them. Last year, Rex Ryan hired Ed Reed and his brother to teach the scheme because they had to learn it again because they weren't very good at it, right? Well, through doing that, they didn't teach a lot of technique. Give you an example. 2 years ago, Donnie Henderson was Ron Darby's position coach. Donnie was great at technique. He really worked with Ron Darby on his foot placement, his weight transfer. Like, you could always see them talking and going through those things. They got rid of Donnie. They brought in somebody just to teach the scheme. Everything last year, scheme. Their jobs were on the line. They had to learn the scheme, and they didn't teach technique. And let's be honest, teaching scheme is more fun than teaching technique, right?
Yeah,
we know Rex wanted to have fun with the staff, but that's what they did. Well, I really think that hurt that defense, especially a lot last year. No more of that. I've watched this year. Phil McGagan, the wide receivers coach with Sammy, was literally working with him on where his toe should step and how his knee should come over on his curl route and where the next toe should be planted once he gets back. You think about little things like that. Ron Darby was working on catching the point of the football instead of the middle of the football the other day. I think things like that are what separates Sean's staff from other staffs I've seen.
Position battles throughout camp, the positions you're looking at that have some really good competition going on right now.
It's got to be linebacker first and foremost. Wide receiver now, as of today, for sure, right? I mean, there already was, to me, a competition at number 3 between Andre Holmes and Rod Streeter, who I think Rod Streeter's really looking good and could overtake him. But now with Anquan in the mix, does Anquan take reps away from Zay Jones in the slot? Do you move Zay now outside, position flexibility? I don't know what's going to happen. I think that's one. Linebacker's interesting. The top 3 are set, really. It's Lorenzo Alexander, strong side, Preston Brown in the middle, and Ramon Humber at weak side. Now, who knows? Maybe...
I didn't hear a name there.
Right.
Reggie Ragland.
RR, right?
Yeah.
So Reggie Ragland has yet one time to take a first-team rep this entire camp.
Whoa.
And that's been a big storyline. And there's a lot of people who believe he's just not a fit for this defense. This defense requires athletic linebackers who can cover. That's not really Reggie's forte. He's a downhill thumper, right? He was drafted to play in a 3-4. Now they're playing in a 4-3. But I still find it interesting that most people thought he would push Preston for the starting middle linebacker role. He's not, because Preston could actually slide over to Will if Reggie beats him out. That's not happening either. But what's even more interesting is lately, Gerald Hodges has even been taking reps with the number 2s at Mike and not Reggie. And usually it's when they go to a red zone, throw it type of thing, like you want some more athleticism on the field. Guys, I don't know where Reggie Ragland fits on this defense. And I don't know when it comes time to make this final roster what's ultimately going to happen, because they love Tanner Vallejo, the rookie. He has position flexibility. It's something that McDermott loves. He's played strong. He's played weak. I think they like Matt Milano. He's a rookie. They drafted these guys themselves. Let's remember, Reggie is not their pick. Reggie is the last regime. As much as I love Reggie Ragland, I don't know where he fits on this team.
Wow, Sal Capaccio with us. We're at Bill's camp. Any other, I mean, you were on top of this Anquan Bolden thing all along. There's not another big move coming, right? This is
the only one that you could think of is Gary Barnidge is still out there. Now, if Gary Barnidge is willing to come to Buffalo on whatever deal that the Bills are willing. Now, you have to remember, Anquan's going to get close to $4 million if he reaches all his incentives, so that he eats up some of your cap. They came into this camp, I think, with $11 million or so, and I could be a little bit off on that, but $11 million or so you eat some of that cap up. How much is left? You got to have money in case guys get hurt. You sign guys throughout the season, but I think the only guy really out there is Gary Barnidge. Now, let's pretend there's a guy that gets cut on another team that Sean McDermott says, my God, I need this guy. Anything like that can happen, but the only real free agent out there is Gary Barnidge, who has yet to sign.
Sal Capaccio, follow him on Twitter at Sal Sports. We appreciate you. Tell you,
what should I get here?
He had the buffalo chicken wrap. I did the Cobb salad with a little extra grilled chicken. It was.
You're watching your figure, huh? You're watching Cobb salad, right?
I mean, I could tell. So the Hubble's watching my figure right now, so I gotta shrink it down a little bit. But nothing bad. Everything's good here.
That's good. That's good. That was a nice place. I had never been here, but a lot of people told me about it. So it's really cool. Back 9 Grill, huh?
Yeah,
nice.
It's awesome.
And you got a guy in a Syracuse polo rocking the front
man.
for
Plus,
ours.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I heard Abby Wambach has something to do with this place or something.
She does. You see, they've got her jersey hanging over there. I think she's friends with the owner or something like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah. There's some interesting ties all over.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call some media friends. So if anybody wants to come down here and hang out, we might be here having some dinner. So hang out and talk some Bills.
I love it, man. Sal, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.